life. In my new era, all beings will have the opportunity to find peace. Whether or not they do will be their responsibility. For my power only permits me to begin this endeavor. It is the duty of mortals to finish it.
Fighting games. Fighting games, fighting games, fighting games, fighting games, fighting games, fighting games, fight and fight and fight and fight and fight. Fight. I love fighting games. I love playing them, I love mastering the gameplay, and nothing gives me more satisfaction than beating the absolutely snot out of my opponents. Allegedly, for entertainment purposes only, we here at Spectre 79 Games do not condone any actual threats of violence. And as a way of showing my support for the genre, I am here to do something new and a little bit enticing. The genre has had so many franchises and so many ways of expression that I'm wanting to dedicate parts of this channel to show my appreciation. However, I refuse to do this alone. So, for just such an occasion, I sought help.
¿Aje dijo juegos de lucha?
Ah, nearby, you made it.
Of course I did! There's no way I missed a chance to talk about a fighting game. Hell, we did a whole Let's Play on a fighting game, which you can check out by the way, link in the description for the playlist below.
Speaking of which, since we were able to play that towards the end, it's finally time to talk about Mortal Kombat. This was my entrance into the fighting games growing up. However, it probably shouldn't have been.
Mortal Kombat. A fighting game that traumatized a lot of kids but left a huge impression on all of us. I was more of a Street Fighter kid myself, you know, but I can't deny how many vivid memories I had with the franchise, playing it at home, at the arcades, at the laundromat, with my friends and cousins alike, even if it led me to getting in trouble with my parents for playing these games. To this day I still have vivid memories of that chancla, and I'm still very, very afraid of that shit. But I digress. Created in the 90s, and it was originally a game about a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, Mortal Kombat has been around for over 30 years. Damn, that's a lot of years. It spawns over both spin-offs and films alike.
Some spin-offs and movies were well received, some not so much, but the impact that this franchise has had in the fighting game community is nothing short of incredible. But over the course of its history, developers changed from Midway to their own studio, NetherRealm.
Developer NetherRealm Studios was able to reintroduce the franchise when it was close to being forgotten, with the reboot in 2011 introducing new and longtime fans to its characters and gameplay changes that have stuck with each new game onward.
Following that up with MKX, the game was mostly praised for its amazing innovations to the franchise that set itself apart from the rest, which then leads to the black sheep of the trilogy, MK11.
Comparing MKX to MK11 was like comparing Super Smash Bros. Melee to Super Smash Bros. Brawl. With X it was faster and exciting, while 11 was slow and boring, with 90% of the roster's movesets easily able to be gimped. If it wasn't for Cassie Cage, this game would have been a 0 out of 10.
Time and place, homie.
Oh come on! This is an M-rated game that deals with blood and gore. Do you really expect people to get mad about stuff like that?
Well, enough to complain about censorship as time goes by.
Alright, fair enough, carry on.
As the life cycle for MK11 officially ended in 2021 and a new game was to arise, fears began to set in with fans and the community. How could they improve on MK11? Where do they go from here? Well, in 2023, NetherRealm answered this with Mortal Kombat 1.
the first full reboot of the franchise in a sense. Mortal Kombat 1 introduces us to a whole new world where the story and origin of each character gets turned completely around, as well as introducing MK players to a brand new mechanic that spices up the matches.
But we'll get to that later. Now, 2 months have passed and we must ask, how does it fare up with its predecessors? Well, for better on the parts that matter, and for the worse in many, many others. Mortal Kombat 1 is both a stellar entry into the franchise both in gameplay, style, and story, but also falters in other aspects. I'd say it's my personal favorite in the current lineup of games, but with a dark underbelly if not kept in check. Which is why we are here today, because we plan to not hold back. Because the beauty of what I do is that I don't plan on kissing either side's asses. In fact, I love this game even more because of what we're about to do. What you'll be getting is pure honesty from 2 lifelong fans. Unfinished? No. Flawed? Yes.
With that being said, this will not be our love letter too, because with these fighting games, you are always invited into these tournaments, so instead, this is our invitation to Mortal Kombat!
1.
Really? You just had to ruin the tone, didn't you?
Whatever. Let's just do this. When it comes to fighting games, the most important aspect is of course the gameplay and movesets created for the characters. Yes, your game can be content filled to the brim, but none of that matters to me if the game itself isn't fun to play. This is exactly why Mortal Kombat 11 was so poorly received by players.
Many people would assume that the way you connect moves will be similar to Street Fighter, but in actuality it's a completely different way. With Street Fighter, it's more about the motion in your moves in order to pull out special, while in Mortal Kombat, you'll need to press the control or D-pad individually with the corresponding phase buttons while timing your moves, and the window of timing to input them is super small. That makes it very difficult to get used to, but when you learn how to connect button combos, that's where the creativity begins.
One of the driving factors for how fun the franchise is for me was how fun it was to string combos together, and Mortal Kombat 1 is no exception. Mortal Kombat 1's biggest strength is its roster of characters. Recently, fighting games aside from KOF 15 have decided to go with smaller roster approach, whereas instead of a huge roster of characters that only 1 or 2 characters differentiate from one another, Mortal Kombat's roster is smaller, but every character in the game feels unique, looks unique, and plays unique. Not one character feels the same, and that makes it a little bit more fun. And I'll be real with you, this is probably my favorite roster of characters in a fighting game since Guilty Gear Strive and Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
I'll have to agree with you on that front. In terms of the roster, Mortal Kombat 1 introduces us to familiar characters we've grown to love in the past, but the main difference is that they have new origins, new allegiances, and new depth to how they play now, as opposed to how they played in the past. Each character feels more unique and special than before, introducing new moves and styles that we've never seen in any iteration of the franchise. With different varieties of moves and specials each one has, there's a character for just anyone to try out and play.
And most importantly, they're just fun to play as. Take games like Mortal Kombat 11, where visually the characters look fantastic, but gameplay-wise, a lot of them just don't feel all that fun to play. They all feel like a lesser version of themselves. I don't get that feeling in Mortal Kombat 1 whatsoever. Aside from maybe 1 or 2 characters, every single character feels super fun to play as, and those that I actually want to try out and experiment with, such as air combos, combo extensions, and unique abilities. General Shao, for example, after his axe slam, can leave his axe on the ground and use it as a form of crowd control and leaves for unique combos. Rain can create a bubble shield that protects him from zoning while also being the epitome of a crazy fun zoner. Shang Tsung can change forms mid-fight that allows for unique combo extensions. The list can go on. Oh, and to add on to this, the stages look absolutely gorgeous, while still retaining that Mortal Kombat griminess that we all know and love. Some of the best stages I have ever seen in a fighting game. However, With all these cool changes to characters in the roster, nothing ever comes close to the best new mechanic introduced to Mortal Kombat: cameos.
Cameos are essentially assists from the Capcom Vs. games and the Striker system from KOF 99 to 2001. They also appeared in 11 as a watered down version needing cameo coins. The way they work is that you need to press the right bumper in the corresponding direction. You can make a cameo input a move that caters to a specific need of what you need to do against a player. These can range from extending a combo, getting the opposing player knocked back, supporting cameo moves, and buff to your armor or get you away from your opponent, and even stopping the opponent's combo with a breaker, which returns from Mortal Kombat X. Each cameo character is different to the point that it caters to how a player plays their characters. Some are good for mobility and projectiles, while others are good at defense with super armor. There are even ways to extend your combos further than previous games, resulting in almost half your life bar gone just in one combo alone, while other characters like Shujinko copy the opponent's main character moves using it against them. Want to keep away from your opponent spamming projectiles? No problem, just use Motaro and teleport to safety while using his projectiles to keep your opponent away from you. Frost especially is one of my favorite cameos to use, as their freezing moves makes it easier to combo and stop incoming attacks. Plus, I gotta say, in this game, she kinda bad though. Feeling like you can extend your combos even further? Good news! Serena and Cyrex are just the cameos that will leave your opponent rage quitting during a match. Goodbye, Sanity!
Sanity ain't the only thing they're losing when I bring up Baraka and Cyrax, but that's the beauty of this system. You take a good roster of characters and add on a fantastic cameo system, and you have a fighting game that rewards experimentation, creativity, and fun. This is where Mortal Kombat 1 shines. Its gameplay alone is worth the price of admission. The amount of times I was able to find a compatible cameo with characters like Scorpion is what makes the replayability all the more present. So, while I think we can all agree that MK11's fatalities are the absolute definition of style, MK1's fatalities are still super good and are especially brutal. As good as MK11? Sometimes not so much, but they're still pretty brutal nonetheless.
Fatality. Reiko wins. Flawless victory.
Who hurt you, Reiko? Who hurt you? Mom did not give this guy enough attention. 10 out of 10.
Oh, and one more thing. The intros are really fun to listen to, and the dialogue is great.
If Reiko frees Onaga from Mount Saga,
I am aware, Liu Kang. I know the legends.
With this in mind, it's time to talk about the other main feature of Mortal Kombat 1, invasions.
The newest mode of MK1 and the replacement of the crypt is Invasions. This is essentially a more improved World of Light from Smash Bros. Ultimate, or a tabletop RPG with seasonal updates. You move your character in a map filled with different enemies and gimmicks as you make your way through multiple sections and towers and ending it with the main boss of the season. As of right now, there has been 2 seasons so far. Season 1 is Season of the Spectre.
Sorry, what?
No, not you, Spectre! Not everything's about you!
Okay, carry on.
As what I'm saying, there are Seasons of the Spectre and Season of the Blood Moon, but the focus characters in these seasons are both Scorpion and Itara Fox. Your goal is to traverse 6 maps and defeat the sub-bosses in each map, with it ending with the confrontation of the season's main boss in the final section of the map. Seems simple enough, right? Well, be prepared to fight countless of characters with different modifiers that either helped you or fucked you over.
And that's putting it lightly. But to help circumvent this is you have the ability to unlock consumables and talismans that give you different buffs and advantages from either chests, or you can be able to grab them from the forge or from the collector store. As you fight, there's also times where you will encounter secret fights, ambushes, towers within the mesas, as well as randomly teleport to the Chaos Realm and unlock skins, consumables, etc. This is what makes the Invasions mode that much more enticing, the unlocks that you get.
Along the way, you will level up your character and increase their stats to make him or her have more health, increase damage, or make their defenses and speed high. The max level is 30, but the best part is that no matter if you use just one character, every character levels up with you, and all you need to manually just add the points to a specific category or add them automatically. This is an excellent addition as it drops the gratuitous grind of trying to level up each character separately and lets you just use the character you love to play the most. And in separate stops, there are these clues that appear. Solve the clue by doing a character specific fatality or brutality, and you'll be rewarded with a chest containing skins or gear. And the skins and consumables you grab are rewarding because not only it incentivizes you to keep going, but also makes you move easier depending on the consumables you add into your character.
And while this mode is super fun to play, it still has its fair share of problems. In Season 1, for example, every character had some form of super armor which just made fights slow to a crawl. Every single fight had super armor, and it just led to some of the most unfun matches, especially when you have arena modifiers making the situation worse. In Season 2, however, they remedied this by making only boss fights have super armor, which works wonders for the fights in this mode.
That was mainly the worst part of the mode. As each enemy, you will have unbreakable moves that you can't even punish. On top of having the worst modifiers appear more frequently, made some fights and bosses a punishing and unplayable experience. I'll happily say that these problems have been fixed with Season 2, all with balance towards said modifiers. However, the survival sections have gotten a lot harder in Season 2 compared to Season 1. If you don't have a character with a resistance towards any elements, this section will kick your ass. This actually works, as it got me trying out different characters who will be better at fighting opponents because of the elements that they are strong or resistant towards. It's kind of like Pokemon in a sense, but instead of them fainting, you maul and disembowel them.
Which is good because this mode has honestly been some of the most fun I've had, and the rewards make it just as enticing to do so. You get skins, gear, and so on from chests, playing the game, and also from gaining seasonal credits to use for the seasonal store. The store? Oh, we'll definitely talk about that eventually. Oh, and the cutscenes are really good too. With seasonal content always changing and always coming with each particular season, Invasions mode is a part of the game I spend the most time in, and I'm excited for what's to come in the future for it. And honestly, the biggest reason why I love this mode so much is that it's where I do most of my experimenting with cameos. Finding out what characters to use and cameos and complementing each other is some of the most fun I've had outside of stuff like Towers and the online. That replay value for me just adds so much. That, coupled with the constant seasonal updates, I'm gonna come back for more. But since we have talked about the highs of this game, it's time to talk about the lows. Starting with its biggest weakness, the online. If you told me that Mortal Kombat 1 would be able to win Best Multiplayer of the Game of the Year at the Golden Joystick Awards, despite Street Fighter 6 being in that exact same category, I would have pulled an amazing Lucas and called this shit rigged, because how in the hell is that possible?
Let us put it this way. The online only has casual play and ranked mode. There is no other way to play with other systems with crossplay, so you're stuck with playing with people on that specific system alone. On top of that, there is no way to tell how good your opponent's online is, as well as filters to find people with better online. The most basic needs for an online fighting game, and they don't bother to add these simple features. On top of that, there's this feature that lets you talk to other players. However, in my experience, it's people who play loud music or have others yelling, talking, or raging players calling me either names or talking shit because they gloat or call me bad because I'm using a broken character and cameo. There is no way to turn it off unless you go into a party chat so you don't have to hear them, but even then, it's still so much hurdles when you should have a way to fucking mute people. I don't want to have a goddamn argument, I just want to have them shut the fuck up and fight. Thankfully, ranked mode has you mute people, but not in casual mode. This needs to be addressed sooner rather than later. And call me a hater, but I prefer Street Fighter 6's online features. It has everything that MK1 desperately needs, on top of better netcode, and has multiple online modes to play with players and friends, and the best part, you can't hear people in mic, because there is no mic in the game. In terms of quality online functionality, I'll have to go with Street Fighter 6. It has every essential thing a fighting game needs for online, and Mortal Kombat 1 desperately needs them.
Now, granted, they are quick to bring in these features and improve the online experience, but none of that should be an issue to begin with. However, I can say this. Netcode, at least from my side, has been pretty consistent, aside from 1 or 2 matches, and when you get the ball rolling, Combat League is actually really fun this time around. Those moments like this do not happen as often, however, and having no crossplay, no Wi-Fi filter, no ping filter, no practice mode in between matches, no lobbies for your friends, just only sours the experience.
In general, whenever I play ranked matches, I want to be able to have a good experience and not worry about online connections, because that's the most stressful thing, is that when you're doing so well in a match, but when an online connection up is bad, you start messing up. Thankfully for me, my experience with online has been smooth, with some hiccups then and there, but even then it's only for a few seconds before it is fixing itself. Along with that, it's also fun. No matter if you win or lose, it makes you want to improve your playstyles and gives you ideas of what cameos are versatile and see how each cameo works. But not having the basic functions for online, day one is such a huge blow for me and this mode, and I hope that it gets added in later updates of the game as soon as possible.
On top of that is the nerfing of characters like Cyrax, because people have a weird fascination with advocating for nerfs when we should be advocating for buffs, but hey, that's neither here nor there. Overall, the online aspects are a huge step back compared to previous games, and it's telling when your competitor, Street Fighter, completely dog walks you in every possible way in terms of netcode, online modes, and just overall fun. But that's not the biggest reason why I'm frustrated with this game. No, this next thing is exactly why I'm pissed.
And that's Malibu's finest. It's a great story. Bullshit. But great. You should seriously consider becoming a screenwriter. What in the actual fuck?
In the olden times, we gamers could just play a game and unlock stuff normally. Whether it's new modes, costumes, or secret levels, unlocking things has been a staple of gaming and one that's still around to this day. However, it wasn't until the late 2000s to early 2010s where gaming took a sharp turn and caused monetization of certain elements in games where it would have been similar to unlocking normally. Mortal Kombat 1 is no exception.
And boy, it's no exception indeed. I think it's finally time we talked about over-monetization in fighting games. Not particularly the fighting packs, because those have value, and recently they've actually been showing what they were getting in comparison to previous years. However, what I am talking about is the gross, almost predatory monetization as the premium store. $12 for fatalities? $10 for basic skins that should be in the base game to begin with? $10 for a goddamn announcer voice? Are you out of your mind?
This has been the issue with Street Fighter with their Ninja Turtle skins that were about $15. Whatever happened to just unlocking costumes by playing the fucking game? Why do I need to pay for stuff on the game that I paid full price for? And this issue stems from one single company and the whole reason Mortal Kombat 1 even happened in the first place. And that was Warner Brothers. They have been in a hot streak of shitty business practices, from canceling movies that are finished to monetizing a fucking single player game with Shadow of War, to scrapping a Superman game and turning it into a 4-player live service game. Just recently, they shifted their business plans that all of their games that they'll develop now moving forward will be live service games. As if we didn't have enough of these fucking games coming out of every studio.
And on top of this, when your customers, your player base, is having to change their dates on their consoles just so they don't pay for your overpriced skins, that should show you how garbage your store is, Warner Brothers. I cannot believe the greed and sheer incompetence on display here, especially when you easily can just put the seasonal fatalities in the seasonal store, you know, for seasonal content. But no, instead, they have to make you pay for their cash grab. What makes this even more frustrating is that these costumes look great!
On top of the new skins included in the story mode and invasions, there's also updated versions of classic skins enough to make Puritans cry. Most of them are from the 3D era games, but it's still refreshing to see these finally being represented as opposed to them recycling the classic trilogy skins. Speaking of MK3 skins, where's my goddamn Cyber Smoke skin, NetherRealm? You teased me with that in the story mode and it's not included in the store yet. We know that it's there in the game, but we just can't get access to it right now. But back to the topic at hand. I should not be paying more money just to get a skin that I like or gear that I believe that looks cool to wear. Granted, there is ways to get skins without paying it, and it's with the shrines.
The shrine got a massive improvement, so much so that a large majority of the time I got nothing but skins or pallets for skins. Though, my only complaint is I wish they gave us the ability to do more than just one pull at a time. I mean, if they really want to make themselves look like a gacha game, you might as well go full in and give us 10 plus pulls option with how fucking greedy it is. However, it doesn't mean that all of the progression and getting skins is tethered to the system. There are two saving graces: Seasonal Store and Character Mastery. Character Mastery basically allows you to gain stuff for your character, whether it's taunts, brutalities, or skins and unlockable gear. This further gives incentive to master and learn a character you want to play as, and the best part is, there's no battle pass tied to them. You unlock them all just by either playing online and other games, despite EXP gain being rather slow in later levels.
The second saving grace is the Seasonal Store. This is tied towards invasions, where you acquire theme-specific skins for every fighter except for DLC skins. You can purchase them from seasonal credits you get by playing invasions, or by doing daily challenges and playing online matches. And these credits are tied to that season only. You can't save them for the next one, as they reset with every season. This is a perfect incentive to play invasions, as it gets you more credits which can be used to get that skin or gear that you want. The only downside of the Seasonal Store is that you need to grind a lot in order to get every item in the store. I believe you need around 241,000 credits to get everything, so you better get used to playing a lot or just get the skins and gear you like the most.
But outside of that, there's nothing else excusing the overpriced aspects of the premium store. But the most annoying part is that it's so easily fixable. Is that there's no real alternative to get the dragon crystals outside of spending money. So if you want that sexy abs Natara skin, $10. That badass Deadly Alliance Sub-Zero skin, $10. This shit is completely unacceptable and needs to stop being in our fighting games. They easily could avoid all of this backlash if they did exactly this. Step 1. Lower the cost of everything in the store. There's no reason for its fatalities to be about $10 to $12. Step 2. Move gear to the Seasonal Store. Get those out of there. Step 3. The easiest thing they can do is instead benefit you for playing invasions. In invasions, you have these locked areas that you can access and explore in each mesa by completing the entire way through, and unlocking netherstones or bloodfangs. What they easily can do here is that every time you complete a part of these areas, you not only get dragon crystals, but also maybe an exclusive skin towards the end of these specific sections. Give players more incentives to play, great rewards as you play, and bonuses as you keep on going. That right there is the answer to your problems.
Monetization is the bane of everyone's existence, and even if I hate the way MK1 handles it, I do hope they improve upon it and make it tolerable. It's supposed to be a fighting game, yet Warner Bros. Treats it as a live service game. If they want it to work, they need to make it good enough to get people to keep playing their game, and get different ways to acquire basic essentials in the game like skins and gear.
I do hope so as well, because if this continues, more and more people are just gonna look at that and just go, no thanks, not interested. But enough ranting and rambling. It's time we get to one of the biggest parts of NetherRealm's games to close out, the story. Welcome, one and all, to the new era, filled with peace, love, and evolved human rabies. We hope you enjoy your stay. Alright, in all seriousness, one of the biggest things NetherRealm has always succeeded at is creating the story mode. But here, we're going to be getting more into it, as while we gave our thoughts at the end of the playthrough, we never really dug into exactly what we liked and didn't like, which is something that we will be spoiling. So this is where we tell you to piss off, as I'll leave a time code for you, and you can catch up with the rest of us. Anyways, let's begin.
Let's start off with the characters, as they have been given vast changes compared to their previous incarnations. First off with Raiden and Kung Lao. Both of them are childhood friends in this timeline, and in here Raiden is no longer an immortal god, but is mortal. I actually like this dynamic, since it brings in a whole new depth into both these iconic characters while feeling similar in their own way. Raiden especially, as that we now see a younger and less experienced version of him that we haven't seen before. And with Kung Lao, yes, he's still a big cocky person as before, but in this he's more toned down and actually cares about his friends and being proud of Raiden for being champion, as opposed to him in MK9 where he was jealous of Liu Kang. They also could be seen as being the eyes of the players, being introduced to this new outworld and the whole Mortal Kombat tournament as a whole. It makes sense that the new players want to discover what's new or different this time, and it works well for the most part.
One of my absolute favorites is the new dynamic of Scorpion and Sub-Zero. Scorpion being Kuai Liang this time around was an interesting design choice that people weren't expecting, that, for me, surprisingly worked. Now, instead of a story of two rival clans manipulated by an outside force, it is now a story of two brothers fighting over the true purpose of the Lin Kuei. Ashura is also a character I didn't expect to really enjoy this time around. They basically took her backstory from Deception and put it here, and it works really well. Her personality is also very adorable. It's pretty well written.
I know it's here for you, Baraka. But size off, Ashura. You can come with if you want. I'm sure Liu Kang will welcome you.
I've never had a home. That would be wonderful.
But by far, the 6 characters that stand out are Liu Kang, Baraka, Reptile, Melina, and easily the best duo in the entire game, Johnny Cage and Kenshi. These two are the textbook definition of a bromance and have some of the best dialogue in the game.
Hey, we don't want you tripping us up out there. Now, give me your sword.
Why?
Just give it.
What? I can't. Not when
You've saved my life. It's yours.
However, with some great characters, there are some that don't stand out or don't get enough screen time than they deserve. These are being Smoke, Reiko, and Havoc and Darius. Smoke is essentially an orphan who was brought into the Lin Kuei and is the adopted brother of Scorpion and Sub-Zero. This was a perfect time in the story to delve into his story and have him take the spotlight, getting to know more about him, but we don't get that. All we got is that he was being raised in the Lin Kuei, and that's that. Reiko is basically a stand-in for Shao's right-hand man, a position that was previously taken by Shang Tsung. He doesn't feel like a character being his only purpose in the story is to be by Shao's side and to be the brute bad guy in the story. To me, this was a slight improvement from his character in the previous games, and I hope that they improved upon it in future games. Havoc and Darius felt more like goons. We know that he's trying to save his realm, but doesn't stand out as much as other characters. He's one of the few interesting characters in the 3D era games, yet we don't really see him be a part of major plot points and only appearing as fight fodder. And Darius doesn't say a fucking thing. Why is he here if he's not gonna speak? Those sunglasses doesn't make him look cool. It only makes him look like an asshole.
What the fuck were they thinking? Speaking of characters, I've been delaying it for a while now, but let's talk about the elephant in the room. Okay, listen. Natara, design-wise, fucking awesome. Massive improvement over the bikini with jacket of Deadly Alliance. Gameplay-wise, she plays great and has some really cool aspects to her combos and all. Lore-wise, they did some cool stuff with her and brought back lore of the old for this iteration. So much for Natara, they did great. Which is why it kills me to say that I absolutely despise Megan Fox's wooden voice acting. It feels like she didn't even try whatsoever with her. Did we learn anything from Ronda Rousey? Did we learn anything from Dimitri Vegas? At least with Ronda, it sounded like she actually tried. And what makes me angrier, Christina V does the battle sounds for her. Her screams, her hits, her moans, all are done by her. Which just makes me question, why didn't they just use Christina? You have one of the best voice actors of our generation as your backup, and you give it to April not giving a fuck.
We can't help what we are. That we feed on blood doesn't make us evil.
And I swear to God, if we got that over Anthony Starr as Homelander, I will lose my shit.
You feeling better? Got it out of your system?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Okay, good. I'm all for celebrities voicing characters, only if it fits the characters they are portraying or from things that they have voiced them before. J.K. Simmons and John Cena make sense because most people know them from as Omni-Man and Peacemaker. Those voices are in our minds when we think of them. But Megan Fox? The same woman who half-assed her lines in both Transformers films and didn't try in the Turtles films. If you got an opportunity to voice a character in Mortal fucking Kombat, you need to put your A game. And that goes for other games as well. Every line from her sounds like she's bored or doesn't care about being there. That just makes people hate the character because of it. I seriously hope that she's gone and replaced with a better actress, cause this shit ain't it. We need improvement, not sticklers. But aside from the characters, let's move on to that plot, shall we?
Well, first off, the biggest complaint I have is that the tournament arc is just flat out too short. It's just 4 fights as Raiden and it's over, when I honestly wish that this was more of a tournament with all the other 4 chosen characters by Liu Kang himself, mind you. I kinda wish it was one of those parts of the story where you choose your own characters for most of the tournament, like you do in the ending, which we'll get to eventually, and then have Raiden win at the end. That would have been more fair. However, the plot begins to pick up when we find out that things seem to be off about this new timeline that Liu Kang has made. For example, Shang Tsung, Quan Chi, and Shao are all in cahoots with an unseen force.
From the entirety of Chapter 4 through Chapter 7, it revolves around Kenshi, Johnny, and Kung Lao dicking around in Outworld, discovering the conspiracy of the Deadly Alliance and the Empire's force working with them, along with meeting new incarnations of Baraka, Reptile, and Ashura. As much as it does take most of the time to get this arc done, it was an enjoyable experience, and it does pick up as the chapters go on. Getting to know the characters and finally seeing how some characters get their well-known abilities. Chapter 8 and 9 sees you take control of Sub-Zero and Scorpion, as it follows their personal split and become enemies like the previous timeline. As soon as that finishes, we start to see more and more of the conspiracy be in the limelight.
Over the course of the story, the main focus is finding out what is causing discrepancies in this timeline. At one point, Geras finds out that the person that Shang Tsung has worked with is not from this timeline. So in desperation, Liu Kang goes to seek for Sindel's assistance in exchange for helping out fight the coup that was staged against her. All this while we find out that not only are the Deadly Alliance trying to steal souls for the powerful Dragon Army, but also it's found that Jared is still alive. Kind of. Ermac takes place in the plot, and Jared is one of the souls contained in his body. Side note, it's actually pretty neat to see characters like Ermac and Quan Chi to be teased before they eventually come out. But 2 of the MVPs for the story are Geras and Melina for me. Yeah, I know. Melina of all people. She gains a lot of involvement in the story down the line, and her character development is shown pretty well, and I ended up really caring for her. Geras also, for me, went from one of the most boring new inclusions to one of the best, with his friendship and loyalty to Liu Kang, to the point that he even kept his powers with the Keeper of Time for when he absolutely needed it, which then he would use in Chapter 4. But before then, as soon as we confront Shang Tsung once and for all, we get the truth of who the main villain was. And turns out, the main villain of Mortal Kombat 1 is actually Shang Tsung. Or rather, the Shang Tsung from the previous game. He's been manipulating events in hopes of taking down this timeline, which means that the main villain isn't Kronika, first of all, thank God, and it also means that both of MK11's endings are canon, which I personally love. Also, during this, Sindel dies. That's it. That's all I can say, because it was kind of pointless. I mean, it makes sense, but I wish we got more of her, because I loved this version of Sindel a lot, but hey, I digress.
Feeling betrayed, our Shang Tsung and Quan Chi join forces with Liu Kang and helps both Earthrealm and Outworld warriors in defeating the Dragon Army and preventing an invasion across all the realms. But back in the Fire Temple, in order to protect the timeline against Shang Tsung, Liu Kang recruits other timekeepers from other timelines. This includes Katana, Kung Lao, and Old Raiden. Not only that, but he assembles an entire fucking army of Mind roster variants to combat Shang Tsung, and this army of evil variants from other timelines, turning this into Mortal Kombat Secret Wars.
All of this is super neat, and you can clearly tell they were having fun with the combinations and climax as a whole was pretty good. However, this is also where the plot sort of wanes a little in quality for me. For starters, this part of the plot moves way too fast for my liking, and could have been fleshed out more with some extra chapters given to those to say Smoke or Katana, etc., and that the final boss is kinda weak. Having the Deadly Alliance being the final boss by itself is absolutely awesome, but there's nothing really new designed specifically for this fight that would make it unique, which is disappointing. But as soon as they are removed from history, we get our ending, which while others did not like, I kinda did. The realms are at peace, they have their defenders, and Liu Kang's new era remains intact. What makes the ending all the more interesting though, is that the arcade endings are actually connected this time around. They serve as a where are they now type scenario, and have a lot of potential for future stories they could choose to use, and that alone is pretty awesome. Also, Samurai Sub-Zero. Enough said. Overall, how did we feel about the story? Well, we had a lot of fun.
This is probably the story mode that I enjoyed experiencing the most, as it not only gave us good character moments and fun scenes, but also introduced new elements for things to come, as this is basically building up this world, and who knows where this thing will go from here. I wouldn't say this is better than MK9's story, but it's up there. The ending, I'll admit, is a bit fast paced and doesn't feel rewarding. There are still problems with the story, with some characters not being important or character motivations not being the strongest, but this is something I hope that it will be improved in future games. But as it stands right now, despite its flaws, the story is pretty solid.
So, Mortal Kombat 1. It is the best that Mortal Kombat has been in a long time. So much of it NetherRealm gets right. However, with every few steps forward, they take several steps backwards. Unfinished? No. Flawed? Yes. This, coupled with the damn near predatory monetization tactics that Warner Bros. Slithers in like a snake, it's hard to give this a true love letter, despite me loving this game to death.
Despite all the weird design choices for both online and offline modes, this is the best gameplay I have experienced in a Mortal Kombat game. The cameo system is a new step in the right direction that makes the game feel more unique and more versatile than the slower pace of Mortal Kombat 11. Along with a great story mode that has me excited for the future, as well as invasions being miles better than the crypt, and the progression system and shrines making getting skins, gear, and pallets less of a hassle. Not to mention the future DLC characters getting me excited to see how they'll play. This would have been a good fighting game if it wasn't for monetization and the online being trash.
That is correct. With all this praise that I've been giving, this does not mean that Mortal Kombat is safe from me calling out the greed and garbage that Warner Bros. Tries to nickel and dime its fans for. Which is why I am saying there is no better time to voice your opinion than right now. We cannot allow any leeway when it comes to the system. This era of overcharging your fighting games has to end sooner rather than later. And I know that I ranted quite a lot in this video, but I love this franchise to death, and I do think it's my fighting game of the year. Hell, I'd even say it's quite possibly my favorite fighting game ever. All the more reason for why I am calling it out like this. Because I want this game to be the best that Mortal Kombat has ever been. With news of it selling 3 million copies and getting a 3 to 4 years worth of support, I'm hopeful that they can achieve that. People I know have lost faith in this franchise long ago, and I don't blame them. But I have not, because everything that makes Mortal Kombat, well, Mortal Kombat, is still there, and I'll continue to be this way. And I'd like to thank my homie Chunk for coming along for this ride with me. I can't think of anyone I'd talk about fighting games with than you. And this won't be the last time.
No problem, my man. It's always great to talk about fighting games with you. However, with that being said, now that we're done with Mortal Kombat, when are we going to do Street Fighter 6? Or better yet, when are we going to review Keijo?
Now let's wrap this up and send everyone home, yeah?
Yeah. Let's end this and go back to playing MK1.
And this is our invitation to
Mortal Kombat!